Alright, good evening, everyone. Looks like we're ready to finish episode 2 here. So, time to finally get Ron cleared. Before we got him cleared of the robbery, but in doing so, we fell right into Godot's trap, placing him at the scene of a murder instead. Hey, Nick. What is it this time? You won't believe how many people are here for the trial. Well, it is a murder case. What are you talking about? They're here for the trial next door. Oh, next door? Why don't you know this, Nick? They're having Detective Atmy's trial today. Oh. Detective Atmy. Right, they say they're going to try him as Mask to Mask. Yeah, we got him to confess to that. Already? That was fast. Boy, I'd love to see Mask to Mask's trial. I know. By the way, where's Pearls? Hold on. There's one thing I want to look up here. Okay, here we go. By the way, where's Pearls? Oh, she went back home. She said she can't neglect her training anymore. Aw. I know you don't like me. Oh, is that Ron? Pearls has really gotten into her training lately, huh? Yeah, ever since that incident last year. Please don't ignore me! Oh, Mr. Delight. Good morning. No one likes me. No one would notice me, even if I killed someone. Oh, jeez. Come on, don't be silly. Wait a sec. You don't mean you are the murderer? No, I'm just a poor thief. No, wait, that's not right. A thief can't really be poor. What are we going to do with this guy? Alright, let's see. According to Mr. Delight, from his second crime on, he was following a bunch of set plans. Right, plans that someone had been sending to him to help him commit the heists. Do you really think there's a connection between the thief and the murder, Nick? Oh, no doubt. It's possible. But today's trial's a race against the clock. Huh? How come? Let's just take our time like always. I'm afraid that's not an option. I think Phoenix is onto something. Court is now in session for the trial of Mr. Ron Delight. The defense is ready, Your Honor. You're ready? Preparation is the last refuge of the weak. Okay, settle down, everyone. Let's begin with your opening statement, Mr. Godot. He's got the judge in the palm of his hand, yet again. Ron Delight is simply too young to be sent to war, that's all. I'm afraid I have no idea what that means, Mr. Godot. Huh. Then you need to get out more, Your Honor. Life is war, but that's exactly why you must be more precise in your wording. Yeah, he's got his coffee. That's all my statement means. You understand now, right? Yes, well then, let me briefly summarize the details of this case. Wow, the judge is taking charge like he knows what's going on for a change. The victim is Kane Bullard, CEO of KB Security. His body was found in a safe at approximately 9 a.m. on the morning of the 13th. However, the time of death was estimated as 1 a.m. the previous day. And that's when our little lost kitten dropped the ball. That little lost kitten is, of course, the defendant. Very well then, Mr. Godot. Please call your first witness. Yeah, you sip your coffee first. I never drink more than 17 cups of coffee during any given trial. I would hope not. That's... I don't know, that sounds like a lot of caffeine. But the first one is always the best. Mr. Godot, your witness? Okay then, let's hear what the defendant, Mr. Ron Delight, has to say for himself. The defendant? Well, Mr. Wright, does the defense have any objections? It may be a bit of a disadvantage having the defendant testify, but... yeah, this guy seems to have a knack for incriminating himself. I remember when Mia was defending me. She allowed me to testify so she could do the cross-examination. She put a lot of trust in me back then. Yeah, Chapter 1, that flashback. Oh, don't worry, it's gonna have plenty of relevance soon. We have no objections, Your Honor. The defense will allow Mr. Delight to testify. You've got guts, trite. Alright then, Mr. Ron Delight, please take the stand. You did it, didn't you? Yes, what? No, that's not true. Oh, Jesus, you're already making this an uphill battle. For a moment there, I thought we'd set the record for the shortest trial ever. Well, Mr. Delight already looks plenty guilty with that face he's making. And once he opens his big mouth, he'll probably put the last nail in his own coffin. Very well. Now then, can you tell me something? If you didn't kill Bullard, why did you go to KB Security? Well, that's kind of hard to say. Boy, I wish I could go home. Now then, let's hear some testimony about what happened. Yes, let's. That evening, around 1 a.m., I went to see Mr. Bullard in his office at KB Security. The blackmail letter I got, it ordered me to go there. Yeah, we did find that. I'd been working for KB Security until a year ago, so I knew where his office was. 1 a.m., the exact time the murder took place. Right, this is not looking good for you, buddy. The weak get washed away by the tides of fate. The strong drink it up. It's bitter today, too. Just like my destiny. Okay, tone it down a little there, Edgelord. You never know that from the way he's chugging it down. Mr. Wright, your cross-examination, if you please. That evening, around 1 a.m., I went to see Mr. Bullard in his office at KB Security. 1 a.m., huh? You're absolutely sure about that? Yes, that's what my watch said when I was entering the CEO's office. No. Actually, I'm not really sure. My watch was slow, and my internal clock was also a bit... 1 a.m., that's the exact time the victim, Mr. Bullard, was murdered, correct? It's too late for a coffee date, that's for sure. The blackmail letter I got, it ordered me to go there. It ordered you there. It was the first time I'd gotten a blackmail letter that ordered me to go somewhere. Yeah, so he said. Does that mean you've gotten other blackmail letters, then? Oh, of course. They'd say things like, steal this, or take that. Oh, why don't you save those for later, Mr. Delight? Please don't say any more. Now, what should I do? So what did the blackmail letter in question say? It said to bring $50,000. Money, huh? A perfect motive for committing murder. Oh, but wait! Wait! I never intended to pay that money anyway! Oh, is that right? After all, he had nothing to hold over my head. I had nothing to be afraid of. Oh, did you? An important point indeed. Witness, let's have that added to your testimony. Yes, sir. Huh. A muddy mud skipper in outer space has a better chance of surviving than I do. Tell me that wasn't a Ren and Stimpy reference. The blackmail threat didn't scare me. It wasn't going to cause me trouble or anything. Just what were you being blackmailed about, anyway? The blackmail letter said, if you don't want your identity revealed, correct? I was sure it was referring to the whole mask-to-mask thing. But I wasn't worried. Mr. Bullard didn't have anything on me. He didn't? Anyway, I don't care what anyone says about me. Just as long as Desi believes in me. So that's why Miss Delight didn't believe he was mask-to-mask. That's why I knew they were just hollow threats. Working for KB Security till a year ago, so I knew where his office was. You used to be a security chief for KB Security, right? Yes, that's right. A security chief? You? And yet, a year ago, you were fired without notice. Revenge for an old grudge? A perfect motive for murder, wouldn't you say? This isn't good. Maybe I should change the subject. Life after... Has he... I'm not sure he's told us why he was fired. Has he? Mr. Delight, please tell us why you were fired from your job. Well... The world is filled with those who have said, I wish I had never asked that. Okay, then I take it back. Defendant, please answer the question. I needed money. You needed money? Well, you see, Desi loves to spend it. It's kind of her hobby. Not exactly the best hobby in the world, huh, Nick? My salary wasn't nearly enough, so I stole data from the company. Oh boy. Come again? KB Security has a lot of security info on all sorts of companies. And since I was a security team chief, you stole some data and sold it. Indeed. Hi, Coolio. Mr. Bullard found out and I was fired immediately. What? I wish I'd never asked that. I was somehow able to keep it secret and made it seem like I'd quit on my own. What is it, Nick? You don't look so good. Ah, cool. Somebody who brings harm to their company is fired as punishment. You do well to remember that. He sure told you. So you admit that you stole data from your company, is that correct? Yes, I'm sorry. This is a very important fact. Please add it to your testimony. Oh man, this whole thing just took a big turn for the worse. Crashed and blew up. It's gonna take the jaws of life to rip this case from the clutches of disaster. It's definitely not looking good for him. He fired me for selling company secrets, but Desi doesn't know that. Why would you do something like that? Well, for Desi's hobby, what else? Wasting money, huh? Well, I would say she is a gold digger, but at the same time, she does seem to care about the guy, so it's not a waste. So Miss Delight doesn't know that her husband was fired, does she? So it would seem. I'm not sure what to think about couples who keep secrets like that from each other. I can't believe this case has even gotten even my to think seriously about couples. Please try to stay focused, Mr. Wright. There wasn't much in his testimony, was there? Sounds like he's avoiding something. At least that's what it sounds like to me. Uh-oh, I got a bad feeling about this. We better be careful. But if we don't find a way to make him spill the beans, we'll never get closer to the truth. Yeah. Where'd me go there? Blackmail threat didn't scare me. It wasn't going to cause me trouble or anything. But then you just said you were keeping you're firing a secret. Mr. Delight, what you said just now doesn't match with what you told me yesterday. Huh? What doesn't? I think you must have been scared. Very scared. Of having a certain person find out your secret. A certain person? Ms. Desiree Delight, the defendant's wife. But listen to me, my Desi, she's... Looks like if I just sit back and relax, the fun will end before it truly begins. Goat it. Yes, we know. It was all your wife's fault. What do you mean? Mr. Delight stole company data to pay for his wife's spending habit, for which he was fired. Unable to face his own wife, someone used his dirty little secret to blackmail him. And that's how this murder came about. Oh, Oh, everything's falling neatly into place for him. Don't talk about my Desi like that, or you'll be sorry! Oh dear. So somebody hand him a shovel so he can just keep digging his grave. Well, it seems that we've learned a great deal of things here so far. What do you think, Nick? I didn't think it was possible to get so thoroughly whipped in just 20 minutes. Clearly there was sufficient motive for murder. He stole data for his wife, and he killed to protect his secret. A family man who cared just a little too much. The motive is clear. Let's move on. What happened at the crime scene at 1 in the morning, Mr. Delight? Come now, tell us. We're all ears. When I entered the office, there was a suspicious shadow there. Oh? Oh yeah, I think he did mention. Suddenly I was hit on the forehead. After that, I remember feeling a bit dazed. If I hadn't been wearing that, I would have been killed. Wearing what? When I came to, Mr. Bullard was lying there, dead. I see. Suddenly hit on the forehead, huh? I believe the detective from yesterday provided similar testimony. He said that Masked and Mask struck him on the head from behind. Of course, since Atme turned out to be the culprit himself, that was all a lie. Huh. No one's going to believe a pathetic lie like that. What are you saying? I really was attacked! We'll find out if what you say is true or not during the cross-examination. Got that, Mr. Trite? Don't go easy just because he's your client. If I see any sign that you are, I'll treat you to another cup of my special blend. You gonna throw coffee at me again? You don't need to worry about that, Mr. Godot. I have faith in Ron. I know he didn't do it. Around the office, there was a suspicious shadow there. Who was this suspicious shadow? If there were 1,000 of me, and if even one knew, I'd tell you, trust me. His dodging all of our questions is not helping us win this case. Okay then, how is the victim Mr. Bullard at the time? What do you mean by how was he? Was he already dead? Was he still alive? Maybe he was the one who hit you in the first place. That's a good question. What do you think, Mr. Wright? Forget it. Sounds like he doesn't know. Suddenly I was hit on the forehead. After that, I remember feeling a bit dazed. Your forehead? Yes, I was hit on the forehead as soon as I entered the room. It was an amazingly fast and powerful attack. Do you remember anything about who hit you? Well, like I said, it was a fast and powerful hit. So I think I was a little dazed for a while. I don't think Mr. Delight even grasped what you were asking. Yeah, I'd like to show him a fast and powerful attack myself. Maybe that would knock some sense back into him. If I hadn't been wearing that, I would have been killed. That? Could you please clarify what you're referring to? Why, my Mask to Mask costume, of course. Oh. Wait just a moment. Mask to Mask? Huh? Oh, did I forget to mention it before? Just to be on the safe side, I dressed as Mask to Mask. Huh. And then I descended upon the office of the CEO of KB Security. What? Nick, did you know about this? He never told me this. I don't recall him ever mentioning it to me either. Even I didn't know that. It seems our little friend really loves to keep secrets. I'm sorry, I just never had a chance to mention it up until now. Wait. That's not right. You know how sometimes things just slip your mind? My 6th cup of coffee is staring up at me coldly. At any rate, we can't ignore this new piece of information. Witness, please correct your testimony. Been killed if I hadn't been wearing my Mask to Mask costume. Why were you dressed up as Mask to Mask? Why? Because I'm Mask to Mask, of course. What are you talking about? Mask to Mask's trial is being held next door. Yes, I guess so. Anyway, at that time, I thought I was being blackmailed over the Mask to Mask issue. So I thought I should go as him, just to be safe. Oh boy. Let me tell you, it's a real pain to move around with that cape. That's why it took a lot longer than I expected. Took a lot longer? What's he talking about? What do you mean by took a lot longer? Yes. I think you came in after the part where he mentioned drinking 17 cups of coffee a day. Or at least before Or at least before the end of the trial. Oh, opening the safe, of course. My cape got caught on the safe door, you see. This all happened when I was hiding Mr. Bullard's body. What was that? Back up a second. Yes. You were the one that hid the body in the safe? Oh, yes, he did mention that to us last time. Well, yeah. Inconceivable! Why? Just why? What reason could you have? What were you thinking? Question. When does someone toss their dirty shorts in the washing machine? What? The answer is simple. When they take them off. As usual, I have no idea what you're saying. I see. Do you mean that Mr. Delight hid the body because he's the murderer? So you're not as stupid as you look. His metaphor this time was really obscure. Mr. Wright, you don't mean that you knew about this whole safe business, do you? Well, yes. Why am I the only one not in the loop here? Witness, make sure you add this to the testimony. Yes, sir. Uh-oh, looks like a storm front's moving over on the fair-weather judge. I panicked and hid the body in the safe. It took about 10 minutes. Why'd you hide the body in the safe anyway? Well, because it wouldn't fit in a drawer. Okay, that's not exactly what I meant. And when I saw that corpse, I kind of lost it. I thought, if they find his corpse, they'll think I did it. I think you had a simpler reason than that. It's because you killed him. That's why you spent 10 minutes hiding the body. That certainly makes more sense. Hold on. 10 minutes. What is it, Nick? I just had a thought. Under those circumstances, would you normally try to hide the body? And spend 10 whole minutes to do it? Under those circumstances? What circumstances? Oh. Let me see if it's... Didn't we find... The buzzer did go off at 1:02 a.m. Hey, Nick, if you think his behavior was so strange, why don't you present some evidence that would show just what those circumstances were? That's it. I'll take a look at the court record and present some evidence. We heard this from Mr. Delight yesterday, didn't we? There's not much in this testimony, either. I'll bet she's still hiding something. Wouldn't be surprised. We'll just have to draw it out of him. Just hope he doesn't make things any more complicated. Your Honor, could you please take a look at this record? And what might this be? The record for the emergency buzzer that connects the CEO's office to security. If the button in the office is pressed, a security team is supposed to come running. Of course, Larry was the one on duty, and he was off elsewhere, but I don't think Ron could have known that. And according to this record, the buzzer was pushed once at 1:02 a.m. What? If Mr. Ron Delight truly was the murderer, he would have ran as soon as that buzzer sounded. After all, a security guard would have been heading his way.
Objection!
Let's remember who we're dealing with here. He probably had no idea there were security personnel in the building. Up until 1 year ago, my client was working as chief of security. There's no way he wouldn't have known about them. But, as it turns out, the guard never came. That was nothing more than a coincidence. Yeah, this is Larry we're talking about here. The fact that the guard was a pathetic loser. Well, he's not totally wrong. Who had just gotten punched in the face by his ex's new boyfriend. And wasn't anywhere in the vicinity was not something Mr. Delight could have known. Again, remember who we're dealing with here. It was a sure bet that Mr. Delight didn't even notice the buzzer going off. This buzzer's extremely loud. There's no way he could have ignored something like that. If he had been conscious, that is. Conscious? What do you mean by that? Fine, let's hear your theory. Recall the defendant's testimony. The moment he entered the victim's office, someone attacked him. Mr. Delight said he felt dazed. I'm willing to wager that he was knocked unconscious for at least a few minutes. Unconscious? So he fainted? That's why Mr. Delight didn't know the buzzer had sounded. And that's why he thought he had time to hide the body. So what are you trying to say? Mr. Delight was knocked out and the buzzer went off soon afterward. Now, unless my client was able to hit the buzzer while he was unconscious, it can only mean that there was another person in that room. That's right. Whoever it was, they knocked out Ron Delight and then pressed the buzzer. Okay. Order in the court. Mr. Wright, this is... This is preposterous. It was this kid. Ron Delight is the one who killed Kane Bullard. Then who pressed the buzzer? It was... the victim, of course. He pressed the buzzer when the defendant attacked him. He didn't die right away. He must have held on long enough to push that button. So Kane Bullard sounded the buzzer himself. What's your opinion on this, Mr. Wright? Nope. Because his fingerprints weren't on it. I need to prove the real criminal was there at the scene, but how? Can I prove it wasn't Kane Bullard who sounded the buzzer? The defense's opinion is this, Your Honor. This piece of evidence proves it wasn't the victim who sounded the buzzer. I believe this is the piece of incontrovertible evidence you were looking for. The emergency buzzer? Is there some kind of clue on it? Absolutely not. Hey, come on now. At least give some thought to what you say before opening your mouth. The fact that there are absolutely no clues is itself the clue. Now I'm the one who's clueless. As usual. This button has no fingerprints on it. If Mr. Bullard had really pressed it himself, naturally he would have left his fingerprints behind. Ron Delight obviously wiped them off. Why would he? A guard could have come at any moment. He touched that button. I know he did. The defendant, Mr. Delight, was dressed as Mask to Mask. And Mask to Mask always wears gloves. What reason could he possibly have I've had to wipe the button free of fingerprints. Order! Order! It would seem I've been forced to eat crow. I wonder what blend number crow-flavored coffee is. However, if the real killer was there at the scene, why would that person press the emergency buzzer? Shouldn't they have run away without putting themselves in extra danger? What's with this awkward silence all of a sudden? Huh. It looks like you're fresh out of parlor tricks. They're on to you, Nick. Just give me a minute to collect my thoughts. The real culprit killed Mr. Bullard at around 1 a.m. And Mr. Delight just happened to waltz in when the murder was taking place, right? The killer clobbered Mr. Delight and then sounded the buzzer. Even though security was supposed to respond right away if the buzzer was pressed. Security was supposed to respond. The killer might not have taken Larry into account either. Time's up, Mr. Wright. Let's hear what you have to say. Very well, then. You've got some guts. I like that in an opponent. Why did the real killer sound the emergency buzzer? To call the guard. Obviously. The killer knew if they pressed that button, a guard would come running. That was exactly what they wanted. They wanted the guard to find Ron at the scene. Do you mean to say the killer called the guard on purpose? Yes. Although, as it turns out, he never showed up. Guess he was getting his clock cleaned at the time. Again, worst guard ever. What a touching story. You're saying the killer had a change of heart and called the guard to turn himself in? No, I'm not. When that buzzer sounded, there were 3 people in that office. The victim, Kane Bullard, who was already dead. The defendant, Ron Delight, who was out cold. And the third person, the real killer. Okay, dude, the silhouette you're showing us, you're not even leaving us in suspense, are you? Hypothetically, yes. Now then, in this situation, if the real killer made an escape, what would happen? The only ones left in the room would be the victim and Ron Delight. Yes, no gray golem silhouette this time. And if any security guards came running in at that time, they would think that I was the murderer. Yes, that was precisely the real killer's objective. To frame Ron Delight for the murder. Yeah, keep sipping your coffee. Again with that delayed reaction. Order! Order! It would seem I've been made to eat my words once again. Actually, you've been made to do a spit take with a cup of coffee. Mr. Wright, who was it? Who was it that tried to frame me? Wait. Wait a second. I'm the one and only mask to mask, so... Nick, you mean the real killer is... We're gonna drag that person in here right now. But who is it? I don't have any solid proof yet, but think about it. The killer knew Mr. Delight's identity, and they also knew that he had been called to KB security that night. So the killer used him to execute a well-crafted plan to murder Kane Bullard. Now then, let's hear your accusation, Mr. Wright. Who was it that framed Mr. Ron Delight for the murder of Kane Bullard? Detective Luke Atme. He's the only one who could have done it. Ace Detective Luke Atme. You mean Mask to Mask did it? Your Honor, the person being tried in the court next to us is not Mask to Mask at all. He is in actuality the true murderer of Kane Bullard. Order! Order! Mr. Wright, explain yourself! Theft and murder, which is the more serious crime? They're not even close. Murder's the more serious crime, of course. It's a capital crime subject to a capital punishment. Please remember the trial from yesterday, if you would. When Luke Atme confessed, there was a huge commotion in the courtroom. Not to mention, he confessed without too much resistance. Of course, a famous detective was unmasked as, well, mask to mask. Instead of being convicted of murder, he was found guilty of grand larceny. That was his true objective all along. To be found guilty? Mask to Mask had the perfect alibi for when the murder took place. He was stealing the urn at Lordly Taylor. In other words, being found guilty as Mask to Mask was Luke Atme's airtight, watertight, and unassailable alibi. A guilty verdict as an alibi? Very tricky. You know, it's almost time. For what? For Luke Atme's verdict. It was a pretty simple trial, after all. Yeah, again, he confessed without too much trouble. If we're going to stop this trial and stall that one, we'll need to do it now. Of course. That's assuming you have proof that the detective was the one who committed the murder. Shit. Luke Atme's trial has indeed attracted the attention of the entire country. If we were to intrude and fail to provide adequate proof of his true crime, Mr. Delight would be left with no grounds for appeal. Am I really sure about this? Huh. A bet's only good when your life's the ante. Mr. Wright, I believe in you. Mr. Delight. So, please, I'm begging you! Thanks, but my decision will determine the rest of your life. Can I really risk your life like this? Phoenix. What was that? Don't stray, Phoenix. For your client, take the path of trust. That voice. It sounds like... Mia. Your Honor, the defense requests an immediate recess. Huh. So that's your answer, huh? Very well. I've decided as well. This court will now take a 20-minute recess. Mr. Wright, when we return, please summon Mr. Luke Atme to the stand. Yes, Your Honor. Who? Oh, him again. Well, Sir Detective Atme. I have to say, Mr. Payne, you performed splendidly. Oh no, Sir Detective Atme, you're the one who... Oh, that's... Well, that's a different judge. That's enough. The court sees no reason to further prolong this trial. The court finds the defendant, Luke Atme... Wait! Don't hand down your verdict yet, please! Well, well, Sir Lawyer, welcome to my courtroom. Who's this hosiery? Suddenly he's Canadian. My name is Phoenix Wright, attorney at law. I wish to file an accusation against this man, Luke Atme. Accusation? You accuse Mask to Mask? I'm sorry, Coolio. That man is not Mask to Mask. He's just a ruthless murderer. What? All right, so I think let's just continue on. We haven't really gotten that far into it before they gave us a recess. Hopefully the next part's not too terribly long. My sis? I could have sworn I heard Mia's voice. So then, she's still alive, inside your heart. Nicky boy! Oh, Mr. Light. Is it true that detective is the real killer? To be honest, we don't have any definite proof. But he's the only one who could have done it. But wasn't he at Lordly Taylor that night? Not to mention, we don't exactly know his motive. I mean, why would Detective Atme want to kill Kane Bullard? Oops, it's almost time. Better get back to the courtroom. I need to find some solid proof. Yeah, hopefully that all comes out during the trial. And it's gotta happen sooner rather than later. Now then, this court is back in session. Mr. Luke Atme, please take the stand. Well, well, how do you do, Sir Lawyer? Hey, Scarlet. I never would have thought to see you acting so recklessly. I couldn't let them hand down your verdict just yet. Not when it would have given you your perfect alibi. An alibi by the name of Mask to Mask? I'm sorry, I'm afraid even the great Luke Atme has no idea what you mean. Of course, I have been in the next courtroom ever since 10 o'clock this morning. I'm afraid there's no way I could know what's been going on in here. You've been in the defendant's seat all day long, correct? Being tried as Mask to Mask. Indeed. It's truly child's play to fool the ignorant masses. Not only did the poor fools ask me to protect their valuables, they even gave me a generous reward upon returning their own property to them. Take this red diamond ring that sparkles upon my divine finger, for example. So you continue to insist that you are in fact Mask to Mask? Of course. Very well then, Luke Atme, let us begin with this simple question. On October 12th at 1 a.m., Kane Bullard was murdered. Where were you at that time? One without knowledge lacks even the knowledge that he should be ashamed of himself. But don't worry, I will not hold it against you, Sir Judge. Thanks. Alright, Mr. Atme, the night of the murder. Speak. Who now? As you wish, Sir Prosecutor. Oh. Oh, Francie. We don't know where she is at the moment. This guy, Goated, he's pretty much the main prosecutor of the third game. I was stealing the urn as Mask to Mask, just as I announced I would. I had more than enough time to prepare. It was a pathetically easy job. A photograph contains no words, but in this case, one turned out to be my witness. The time at which the camera captured Mask to Mask was the same time as the murder. Seems the main point of discussion will be this photo of the crime scene. Everything else up until now is all part of his plan. There has to be a secret to this picture as well. Even the great Mask to Mask cannot be in two places at once. Yep, I finished the second game. We're now in the middle of the third game. Now then, if you'll excuse me, I have a verdict to receive. Unfortunately, Mr. Atme, we still have to do your cross-examination. A fool is too foolish to know that he's a fool. Oh, but here you go, Scarlet. He's kind of quoting Francie here. I think he's trying to say that you're full of it, Nick. The only thing that's full of it is his alibi. Just what I announced I would. So this photograph is the proof, correct? Indeed it is. And the man in the photo is certainly wearing a mask. That is why I'm called Mask to Mask. But conveniently, that also means there's no way to tell who this really is. What do you mean? Huh. Are you saying this is not, in fact, Luke Atme? That it could be an accomplice dressed up as Mask to Mask to create an alibi? What an interesting idea. Are you saying that I, Lone Wolf Luke, had an accomplice? I don't... We don't really have any evidence of an accomplice, at least not yet. If Luke Atme was at KB Security during the murder, then the Mask to Mask in this picture has to be a fake. Then there really was an accomplice. But right now I have no idea who it is. I don't have any idea right now either. Baseless objections are just what this guy wants. There's gotta be another way. I'm gonna find it. More than time to prepare. It was a pathetically easy job. I believe Adrian Anders hired you at one point. That's right. It was over 20 days ago, if I'm not mistaken. You sent the calling card to Lurley Taylor 10 days before the heist. That would mean you sent out the card after you began your security watch, right? Indeed. There was no reason why I couldn't do both jobs at once. It was the perfect opportunity to steal my latest target. I see. You truly are evil, aren't you? Yes, evil is what I am. Hey, Nick, isn't there something odd about this? Detective Atme was always proud of his ace detective skills, right? But if the urn was stolen from Lurley Taylor while he was the only one watching it, he'd have no way to maintain his perfect ace detective persona. You know, that's true. It is kind of odd. Witness. The time was the same time as the murder. About the camera that took this photograph. Oh, come now. It's all too clear what you're thinking. Huh? You think I altered the timestamp on the photograph, don't you? I'm afraid that's impossible. The camera was set up by Lordly Taylor, and on top of that, it was Lordly Taylor's staff that printed that picture's data. Unfortunately for the defense, there's no way that picture could have been altered. I see. Looks like I better find something else that could be suspicious. So this alibi's false? It has to be, or he couldn't have killed Mr. Bullard at KB Security. But I'm not really spotting anything unusual. There are two possibilities. Either the mask in the photo's a fake, or the photo itself is. Okay, the timestamp is just a couple minutes till 1. Oh, cool, Scarlet. What did you end up doing? If I haven't already asked yet. Carried to the basement warehouse the day of the crime. Moved again that night. Oh, right, okay, yeah, you did mention that. Broken and repaired by Adrian 2 weeks ago. Then replaced in the box. Based on he was stealing the blackmail letters. When Adrian dropped the Ern's box 2 weeks ago, she also knocked over some paint. Time to prepare. In this case, no one turned out to... So by photograph, you mean this piece of evidence here, is that correct? Indeed it is. That's it. The very thing that proves I committed the crime. The very thing that proves you committed the crime. Surely even you understand by now. Lordly Taylor provided that camera. There's no way I could have tampered with it. That means I could not have killed Kane Bullard, unless I had an accomplice. Come on, think long and hard about that night. The basement warehouse, and this picture that supposedly captures it. It's gotta be here. Isn't there something funny about this picture? Yeah. Are you implying this picture's a fake? You bet I am. There's definitely something strange about this picture. We took a look around the basement warehouse that night before the theft took place. And there's something in this photo that doesn't match my memory of that night. Very well, then let's hear what you have to say. What about this photograph do you find funny? Oh, nice. Yeah, I caught a bit of your stream of it last night, Scarlet. I couldn't really take part in it much as I was at work. I just kind of had it going in the... I just kind of had your stream going in the background and hosting it and everything. The funny part is right here. Why this? This is a blood stain! No, it's not... This ain't Danganronpa, Judge. The pink is just coincidence. Oh, blood! Now this case is getting interesting! Not exactly. The stain's actually pink paint. Oh, just paint. And peach-colored at that. From blood to peaches, this Judge Sherlock's going on his wild tangents. The problem with this photograph isn't the paint. The problem is when you consider the layout of the basement warehouse. It turns out that something that should be here is nowhere to be seen. Well, Mr. Wright? What is supposed to be in this picture instead of the paint stains? The statue is missing. The supervisor of the treasure exhibit stated the following. Yes, or if it was a Klingon, that could work too. Well, there's a good reason for that. On the day of the crime, at around noon, that golden statue just happened to arrive from the mountain training hall. I realized the statue would be the perfect size for covering up the paint stains. That's why I put it where you first saw it. I myself was there the night the theft took place and saw the statue in that spot. If this picture was truly taken on that night, that statue should have been there. But when I went there the day after the theft, that statue of the old bag was sitting in the corner. Perhaps it was somehow pushed there accidentally? Your Honor, this statue is slightly larger than yourself and quite heavy. It would take more than an accidental push to move it that distance. In that case, can you prove it? Can you give us the rhyme and reason as to why that statue was moved that night? Can you do it, Nick? Never mind who moved it. The real question is, why did they move it? Well, Mr. Wright, I hope you're prepared with your answer. Now then, who was the one that moved the golden statue the night of the crime? I don't think it could have been anyone else. The one who moved the statue is none other than Luke Atme. Come now, Sir Lawyer. There you go again on one of your strange delusions. Mr. Wright, what basis do you have for your strange delusions? It's very simple. The witness was the only one in the basement warehouse that night. That is indeed very simple. However, why would I want to move a heavy golden statue? The reason for moving the golden statue. Here's where our battle truly begins. Well, Mr. Wright? What reason did the witness have to move that statue? The reason can be found here in this photograph. Look at me. You pretended to be Mask to Mask to create an alibi by showing that you were at Lordly Taylor that night. But this photograph contains a single fatal flaw. If the statue had been there, your lie would be exposed like a cheap film at a drugstore. That's why you had to move the statue. A single fatal flaw? Interesting theory. Please enlighten us. Just where in this picture does this lie exist? Naturally, the lie in this photo is the timestamp. He took this photo the night before the murder, meaning the statue wasn't there yet, so he had to move it out of the way. Later. What do you mean? I'll tell you exactly what I mean. On the night in question, Luke Atme went to KB Security and murdered Kane Bullard. Therefore, it's obvious. It would have been impossible for him to have been at Lordly Taylor at this time. But what does that have to do with the statue being moved? Remember, if you will, Your Honor, when was the statue placed beside the warehouse door? Well, the statue was taken down to the warehouse on the day of the crime, and it was placed there in order to cover up the paint. Exactly. Luke Atme had already decided on the time when he was going to kill the victim, and so, in order to create an alibi for that time, he took this picture days before the murder took place. What the... Of course, the statue hadn't been brought down to the warehouse yet. Ah! So on the day of the crime, Mr. Atme must have been quite nervous. As nervous as a long-tailed cat in a rocking chair factory, so to speak. Okay, I'm not sure I've heard that expression before. Why? Because something that wasn't supposed to be there had been brought down in place where it wasn't supposed to be. And that is why Luke Atme had to move the statue on the night of the murder. He did it to make the room match with the way it had been in his photo. Order! Order! Mr. Atme, is this true? One moment, Your Honor. Have you forgotten this? What's that? The data for the basement warehouse computer. According to this, the camera did indeed go off on the night of the crime. It's true the camera had been set up by the Lordly Taylor staff. However, the program used to manage that data was yours. That alone would have allowed you to tamper with the data. What? Order! Order! Mr. Goda, what's the meaning of this? Still sipping his coffee. Goda, I warned you about making me wait. Now put that coffee down. My 11th cup. I promised to drink no more than 17 during a trial. Which means I'm still good to the last drop. However, the defense has a very good point. A good point. So what? We are all but travelers on a road of infinite points. I think he's got his points mixed up with his other points. So you say this photograph was taken ahead of time, and the statue is moved in order to make it match. That's a very interesting idea. However, there's one point that can't be denied. Which is... that it's only a possibility. Men that are trapped by the chains of maybe can never reach their dreams. That's very true. No, wait, don't fall for that, Your Honor. Hey, Mr. Damask. Yes? If there's no funny business in your actions as Mask Damask, there should be no problem with you telling us your strategy. So let's hear it. Yes, please provide this court with your testimony about your plan to steal the sacred urn. Okay. I first received a request from Lordly Taylor about 20 days ago. The urn was placed in a box, and zvadi! It was sent to the warehouse. Hence, I was actually unable to see the urn for myself until the day of the crime. I knew it was an extremely valuable treasure, so I sent my card 10 days beforehand. I then handled security by myself to ensure that my crime would go smoothly. At last, I held the urn in my hands for the first time at 1 AM on October 12th. That's pretty much all stuff we've heard before, isn't it? Yeah, but we'll find the truth hidden in the nuggets of new information he gave. Witness, you're sure there are no mistakes this time? Svati! Very well, then. Mr. Wright, you may begin your cross-examination. First received their quest about 20 days ago. You were asked to guard the urn by Miss Adrian Anders, is that right? Indeed, it seemed that they had heard my sparkling reputation. I see Miss Anders is still attracting the weirdos. You better watch out too, Maya. The urn was placed in a box, sent to the warehouse. You mean this box? Yes, that pathetic box. Oh dear. Another shot at Maya, who said she made the box. Lady Anders was especially taken with that urn. And she wouldn't let anyone enter the storeroom, not even me. Huh, interesting new tidbit. Hence, I was actually unable to see the urn for myself until the day of the crime. He didn't see the urn. So you're sure you've never seen the urn before? Indeed. You may ask Lady Anders to confirm for yourself. My security was focused entirely on the entrance to that warehouse. However, I, Luke Atme, let no information whatsoever slip through my fingers. My card 10 days beforehand. You mean this calling card? That's right. That is, without a doubt, my calling card. I guess Mr. Delight didn't make this after all. Of course. Because Atme knew about the emblem. Making this card authentic would have been child's play for him. I then handled security by myself to ensure my crime would go smoothly. Then no one entered the basement warehouse. Unfortunately, there were many different treasures being taken there. Thus, for a period of approximately 5 days, people were indeed going in and out of the warehouse. At last, I held the urn in my hands for the first time at 1 a.m. on October 12th. And this is the photo that proves that, huh? Indeed. To be honest, even if a photo was taken, I didn't think it would matter terribly much. Hey Nick, if this photo's a fake, Detective Atme might have stolen the urn whenever this was taken. That's true. If he did take the urn several days before the alleged theft, you know, he's been saying he never saw the urn till that night. If we can prove he's lying there, we can wrap this up and put a bow on it. I can take a good hard look at the court record. Not a lot to go on, is there? That detective's been covering his tracks. There's only one thing we need to prove in this cross-examination. That he took this photo well before the actual night of the crime. Alright then, how do we do that? There's one thing that Atme stated very clearly. That he had never seen the urn before he stole it. We need to prove he's lying. Some before the heist. The emblem's top secret. Let me see. I will be coming to purloin the most priceless work of art on display in your Treasures of Khura'in exhibit. Take good care of the speckled urn, won't you? Remember what happened to the urn, though. Adrian dropped it. Because that was how it looked before. It's more cracked than speckled, I would say. It didn't become like that until after Adrian dropped it and then put it in the paint and put it back together. Okay. Let me just, little bit of a safety save. Mr. Atme, if you really are Mask to Mask, then you also wrote this calling card, correct? But of course. Is there a problem with that calling card? Allow me to read a passage from the calling card that Mask to Mask had written. Take good care of the speckled urn. Now, the speckled here surely refers to this pink pattern on the sacred urn. Yes, that's true. But so what? Truth be told, there's no way Mask to Mask could have known about this pattern. What do you mean? This pink spotted pattern on the urn is actually nothing more than paint stains. Paint stains? And these stains didn't appear until after the urn had been taken to Lordly Taylor. I'm not finding this joke to be very funny, Mr. Trite. On the day the sacred urn was taken to the warehouse, the urn was broken due to human error, or should I say, an error-prone human. And that's when the pink paint got on the urn. You can't be serious. And yet this calling card clearly mentions the paint pattern. Which means Detective Atme had seen the urn long before the crime ever took place. In fact, he saw it when this fake photo was taken. And because this photo's a fake, your alibi for the night of the murder no longer holds water. Now we got him. Witness, do you have anything to say for yourself? Alright, that did it. He's broken. Nick, I think it's still a little early for a victory pose. Huh? It's so sad. No one has any conviction these days. Conviction, you say? Yesterday, we all decided unanimously that this man was Mask to Mask. And now we're calling him a murderer. You don't think we're being a tad fickle? That's a good point. No way, don't fall for that too, Your Honor. You say Luke Atme was the one who killed Kane Bullard. Then let me ask you this. Why would he do that? An excellent point. Motive, Mr. Wright, motive! Might you, my merry murderous motive manifest? Nick, he's getting his second wind. If he prepared an alibi and pinned his crime on Ron Delight, as you say, he must have had a very strong motive for murder. The only one with any motive we've seen is Ron Delight. Isn't that right, Detective? Indeed. According to my own research, the boy's motive is clear. Without a motive, it's nearly impossible to prove guilt in a murder case. Now then, maybe you can enlighten us as to what the defendant's motives were. I'd be honored to, Sir Oldtimer. They're doing everything they can to make Ron look suspicious. Despite our lack of hard information, this may be our only chance. Luke Atme had no points of contact with the victim whatsoever. Kane Bullard decided to investigate Mask to Mask and simply mistook who he was. It was Mr. Bullard who wrote the blackmail letter and sent it to Ron Delight. And it was again Mr. Bullard who harbored a grudge against Mr. Delight for his betrayal. Mr. Bullard's mistake is quite excusable. The defendant truly believes he's masked a mask. And that is why Mr. Delight saw it fit to kill Kane Bullard. Truly a tragedy. So the victim, Kane Bullard, blackmailed the defendant. This is the blackmail letter found in the defendant's apartment. A handwriting test confirms that Mr. Bullard was indeed the one who wrote the letter. What? Very well, Mr. Wright. Begin your cross-examination. Wait a sec. If you don't want your true identity revealed to the world, come to KB Security at 1 a.m. on October 12th and bring $50,000. If you don't, I'll take that red diamond you received the other day instead. Like the one that he's wearing, that he was bragging about just a few minutes ago. You mean this blackmail letter right here? It says, bring $50,000. And the handwriting is, without a doubt, the victim's. There is no mistake. We have an official report to prove it. But I don't see an addressee on this letter anywhere. An addressee? This letter was discovered in Ron Delight's apartment. And Mr. Delight did show up at the designated place in time. The fact that there is no addressee is irrelevant. I wonder... What's up, Nick? I just had a thought. What if that blackmail letter wasn't meant for Mr. Delight? Whoa, do you have any evidence of that? For some reason, I just can't shake the feeling that there's something not quite right about this blackmail letter. Well, everyone, are you quite satisfied? No. Mind if I ask you a few questions, Detective Atme? I think at this point I am going to take a quick break. It looks like, I think we do still have quite a bit of this trial segment left to go. I'll be back in just a couple minutes, though.